I'll officially call the Ojai City Parks and Recreation Commission meeting to order. Vicki, will you call the roll?
I will. Chair Entner, which is excused. Vice Chair Taylor.
Present.
Commissioner Firestone.
Here.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Present.
And Youth Commissioner Duenas.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Duenas, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Sure. Everyone, please stand. Sure. Do we have a flag display? Thank you. Okay.
Nice. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Justice for all.
Thank you. And Vicki sent an email earlier that we have no public comments for tonight. Here. Okay, do we have a police report to share?
We do. Chief Rivera sent this to me as an update at Libby Park on December 2020. We had numerous incidents where someone has entered the bathroom near the tennis court and has smeared pieces on the wall with salt. There was also one arson that occurred when someone lit the towel dispenser on fire, and the fire department responded and extinguished the fire. Video of the subject near the bathroom entrance just before the fire started, but the video was poor due to lighting and it was unrecognizable. And the police department has stepped up foot patrols in the area during the evening and morning hours. And as for the skate park, ongoing issues with graffiti inside the bathroom, 2 reported incidents in January and several in December. But because it's a bathroom, it's difficult to catch someone in the act. But the police department has stepped up foot patrols in the area and had no success in identifying the suspect. All incidents at the skate park have been graffiti related, and they just have stepped up the patrols in this location. And that's that.
Thank you so much.
No.
Does anybody have any questions about the police report? No? Okay. Public Works report.
I got a report from Greg Grant and Miguel. And it has, we have had increased level of trash recycling pickup with the crew over the weekends for several months, with an increase in pickup containers related to COVID and the trash. And there's required COVID signage at the playgrounds and the skate park stating precautions. We have crews sanitizing the playgrounds and restrooms daily as a COVID precaution. And the group picnic areas at Sarasota have been closed as a COVID precaution. And then another project that they're currently working on is additional sound mitigation around the pickleball court.
Thank you, Vicki. Anybody have any questions about the Public Works report? Brian?
Yeah, I was wondering if we know how the sound mitigation efforts are going, the pickleball court.
It's the Public Works Department is working on the design currently, so we expect to have it done by April, and so we'll probably be putting some putting out the design in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, and is that just like adding fences and the sound attenuation material?
Yeah. So we have that Acoustifence set up right now, so we're looking at some ways to expand upon that.
Great.
Okay.
Is that Acoustifence? Is that temporary going to be permanent, or is that just temporary tear it down?
It's going to be incorporated into the permanent, but it's not going to end up looking exactly how it looks right now. That was, we put that up to see if it worked, and it, the people have different opinions on how loud the noise is, but it did make a multiple decibel difference. So we're going to incorporate that. So.
Great, thank you. Do we have a city council liaison report to share tonight?
So Betsy, Mayor Sticks, Mayor Sticks, although she tells everybody to call her Betsy. So But she did send me an apology that she is unable to attend today. She had another meeting scheduled as well. And so I think the main thing that we had talked about is the Wednesday, the special meeting that we scheduled on February 10th that we wanted to remind everybody about for the ATP Maricopa Highway demonstration project. Wednesday, the 10th, we're having a council meeting where we're asking the public to come give feedback on that project. And so that's the main, that's the thing we wanted to remind everybody about. So,
What time is the meeting?
6 p.m.
And then is the Zoom link, where is that advertised? Is that on the city website, or how do people find out about that?
They can go to the city website and you can go to the city council section, and it'll have it on the February 10th meeting. You can click there and it'll have the agenda with the Zoom link. And then we also have posted it on Facebook and some of the different groups. And it's also going to be in tomorrow's newspaper.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
James, were you able to discuss with her the email of how to use blind carbon copy?
Yes.
Not send a group all, okay. Thank you very much
Yeah.
for following up on that.
Yep.
Okay, agenda item number 7, consent items. I have the meetings from January 7th, 2021, the regular Parks and Rec Commission meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? Do you have a motion for approval?
Sure. Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
A second? Thank you, thank you. Okay, presentation, actions, and discussion items, tennis court signage. There was an, oh, Ryan, yes, go ahead.
We need to vote on the motion.
Oh, sorry. Can you call the roll? Vicky?
I can.
Thanks, Ray.
Vice Chair Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Firestone,
Yes.
Commissioner Jacobson,
Aye.
and you, Commissioner Gwynn.
Yes. Do I still have a vote? I don't think I do. But yes.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah, I'm sorry. We changed the bylaws, I guess you'd call it, or the operating guidelines for the youth commissioners vote at the couple meetings ago.
Nothing against the youth commissioner, but it was solely based on numbers, wasn't it? What, right?
Yeah, so we wouldn't have a 3-3 tie on everything. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, presentation, action, and discussion items, tennis court signage. There was an attachment to the agenda package regarding the changes to the current court signage. Has everybody had a chance to review it? It's labeled tennis court etiquette. I have some input on that. If somebody else would like to go first, that's fine too. Okay. I have a long-standing opinion on signage that I've continually raised over the years, that when you walk up to a sign, the first thing that you see is no, 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 no. I'd like to see the city consider shifting it around to what is it designed for and encouraging appropriate use. So something to consider and for further discussion would be maybe using it instead of saying tennis shoes only, no street shoes, skateboard, bicycles. Currently, I think it says big wheels or anything foreign to the game of tennis. Perhaps could we just say, please wear appropriate footwear? And continue by saying something to the effect, this is just to put out there for discussion. The courts are designed for specific recreation activities. Please use appropriately and refrain from anything foreign to the game of tennis. Those are just kind of my thoughts. I think it's more welcoming instead of just starting a sign out with no, no, no. So that was my input. Everything else in the sign is more about structure, and I think it's really welcoming.
I agree about kind of the items except for the first one, that they all seem fine, but it's tennis shoes only. I mean, I think it's speaking specifically to, stuff that touches the court. That's the intent of it, is you don't want to mark up the court or ruin the court or the nets or something like that. But the way it's worded, let's see what the proposed wording is. So this term, anything foreign to the game of tennis, seems problematic because, a cell phone is foreign to the game of tennis, but
after that, it can't be.
People are going to bring their personal belongings onto the court. I think also there are activities that besides tennis that the courts could be used for if they don't interfere with the primary purpose of the courts, which is to play tennis. I know some things have interfered with that, like pickleball, the sound of soccer, the sound of that, but I'm sure there are quieter activities that somebody might want to use a court for.
It's one of my favorite players.
For tennis seem fine, and that might involve some other materials. So I think there's kind of a bigger issue here of are these courts really just for tennis? And then the other thing is as far as what materials should be on the court or shouldn't be, I think focusing it more specifically on what could damage the court.
Well, according to the staff report, though, they're proposing that we remove the wording tennis shoes only and no street shoes and replace it with nothing. Replace with no skateboards, bicycles, big wheels, or anything foreign to the game of tennis. So they don't even address any kind of shoes whatsoever in the new sign. The proposed language in the new sign eliminates a reference to footwear in its entirety. So I also think that, can we hear from staff? Is this an issue? Do we have enforcement issues on the courts where people are wearing inappropriate footwear? I mean,
no, which is why we didn't. That's why we removed that language. I think that's just outdated language. Does anybody think about what shoes they wear when they play tennis anymore? Really, it's are they running shoes? Are they all that stuff. So that was it. Yeah, that was our logic for that. And I think I think what started this conversation was when those parties started happening on the tennis courts during the pandemic, and people were doing the dance parties. And so we tried to take a look at it for with that perspective of how do we stress that this is for specific uses like tennis, but not try to get into really specific detail about, to me, when you start saying you have to wear tennis shoes, it's just, what about running shoes?
It doesn't sound like it's an issue either.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Is there really an issue also with big wheels? Do they even make big wheels anymore? Talk about outdated language. That seems really, you're eliminating telling people what kind of footwear to show up in and use, but I haven't seen a big wheel out in, I don't know, since 1980.
In the shiny.
I don't know. Yeah. So I think that's great to remove the reference on footwear. I would fully support that. No. Is there a way that we could come up with a positive language that encourages? I personally like that when it says, please refrain from anything foreign. I think it's broad, yet it could address an ongoing problem. If somebody showed up with a big wheel, then staff could direct to the sign that says this is foreign to the sport. Is that something that the commission or the city would consider doing, to not have so much negative language about what's not allowed, and more focus on what is allowed?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think, assuming the commission's fine with that, I think we'd be fine with that. We can revise and send that out. So
Okay, that would be great. I think I do like the part that says foreign to the game of tennis. But if we're thinking that at some point we're going to use it for things other than tennis, do we want to just say court etiquette so that if we do want to use it for, I know we've gone back and forth with the usage, but does it have to say tennis court etiquette or could it just say court etiquette?
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Because the sign, I'm sure, is pretty. I didn't look at the budget estimate or figures, but I'm guessing that there's a hefty price on the sign.
Mhm. Yeah. So that's actually, court etiquette is that's something that we can do too. I think they have been used, and I almost am afraid to say what it's been used for because I think we all know it started some controversy, but they have been used for other programs at different times, so that would make sense.
Just so that if we're authorizing those uses, they don't feel like they're violating the sign that's there for public display. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all those are the only input items I have.
So what would Susie, what are you proposing that number one would say? What would be the wording of it?
Well, it sounds like, according to the staff report, it says it would read, let's see, replace with no skateboards, bicycles, big wheels, or anything for. Can't we just stick with that last line? Anything foreign to the game of tennis, and start with some words to the impact of. These, and if we're not going to say tennis courts, these courts are designed for specific recreational activities. Please use accordingly and refrain from anything foreign to the game. Could we just say to the game? Do we have to say to the game of tennis?
Or do we say something like from approved sports or something like?
Yeah, something really broad.
Yeah.
Well, it seems kind of meaningless at that point because we, like, as a city, we don't have any approved uses. It's public courts, right? They're called tennis courts. They're used for tennis, but we don't say anywhere in the municipal code what they can and can't be used for, I don't think.
I think that
and this
the
sign
signs
isn't
are
making up new rules.
Yeah.
Well, I think the sign there is pretty run down and needs some to be replaced. And
Agreed.
so moving in the direction of potential using it for tennis courts, that is its primary, I think we've agreed that that's its primary function. But at times it could be approved for other uses. Is that correct, James?
Yeah, how about tennis or other approved uses?
Okay, please please use accordingly and refrain from activities foreign to the game of tennis or approved activities.
Yeah, because that would address the things like the dance party that was popping up that we didn't know about, things like that.
Which wasn't an approved activity for this.
Right, you can't be too broad. I mean, I've got game and I can bring that game to the court, my dance off.
Yeah.
Considered.
But I think the problem with the dance, what was the problem with the dance party on the tennis court? Was the problem that it wasn't tennis?
I think it was just, there were some tennis players who were upset. And then I think the real problem, to be honest, was just the violation of the COVID protocols. That was
Right.
really, for us was, keeping people distanced and everything else. So so there was a little bit, though. We had a couple of tennis players who were upset that they were out there. So
Because they weren't able to use the courts for the intended purpose.
yeah, or it was disruptive when they were playing. So.
I think that's the bigger issue is that as far as pickleball, it was disruptive to tennis players, right?
Yeah. Well, that was an approved use at that point. So, but yeah, I get your point.
But does the city have a list of approved uses for those courts?
No, there isn't. But like pickleball is actually pickleball is a good example. I was trying to stay away from it, but But they came to us. They came to I think at that point Sophocles was here, and they came to Sophocles and they said, can we play pickleball at the courts? And so he approved that, so that became an approved use. But we don't have like a sheet of approved uses. So.
Right. I mean, I take offense to like us having kind of a specified list of things you can do on the tennis courts. Like it's public space, right? We don't have many public courts, period.
Yeah.
I recognize that they're primarily for tennis. And if there are activities going on that interfere with tennis, like it's too noisy, which was the issue with pickleball, that seems reasonable to kind of have some policy around that. But beyond that, I don't think we should wait for the city to say what you can do on those courts to do it.
What kind of, what are you proposing, Ryan, for that number 1?
I think the intent of number 1 is some kind of protection of the surface of the courts.
Okay.
Right? Like that's why it's there. So I think just no skateboards, bicycles, scooters, motorized vehicles, or anything else that could harm the surface of the courts.
Or the court surface is not fragile, but intended, the court surface referencing the damage, and to use it. If you start listing things like skateboards, big wheels, and scooters, then the next thing somebody's going to show up with one of the sidekicks and say it's not listed. So why not be overbroad and be able to let staff or whoever is doing the enforcement have broad brushed authority?
We could be,
Well,
we could be
this
broad
side,
and
I don't
specific,
think.
right? I mean, like things like the no wheeled toys or things of that, something of that nature, because that's obvious that that's not good for the courts, and that would be a serious issue as far as integrity.
Is that an issue though? I mean, do people really do that?
Skateboards, sure. Yeah, I've
Vicky?
seen it.
I mean, we have a problem with it?
I don't know that we have a problem with it, but I've seen it.
I think we've had a few. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about something like, please help protect our courts by not using, I was writing damaging materials, but I don't like that.
I like the direction that you're taking. That is, it's really makes a difference on your sign when you have visitors come to the area, people who don't know that they're tennis courts, and the first thing they read is no, no, no. It's not, it's just really not a good practice. That it sets things off in the wrong note, if you will, and welcoming them to use the courts appropriately is much more successful, because in my experience, when you start saying no to specific things, the person who is tasked with enforcement is being limited because they're not listing all, everything that is prohibited. It's a much better tool for an officer to come in and say, no, this is damaging, or this isn't being used for its intended use, period. Not you're riding a big wheel. It's just not the way that most of the public notices are going. They're much more welcoming and informational. Read what you have again. We have.
I was tweaking it. Please help protect our courts by using appropriate materials or something along those lines. Appropriate equipment, appropriate footwear and equipment. There's a couple of options.
I mean, Susie, I like the intent of this. I think there are some specific concerns though, like skateboards, scooters, things that
wheeled devices
that like we have seen on tennis courts and could damage the courts. And if
so
the
why
language is
just say wheeled devices prohibited instead of using the word no? You just switch it around. Wheeled devices prohibited. and then it covers everything. Scooters, electric.
There goes our handicap league.
Walkers, yeah. Wheelchairs.
Okay. I think that ADA probably trumps that, so I'm not sure that. I mean, that's a pretty far stretch to split
Well,
that, to think that someone's going to interpret it that way. But let's see, we could say wheeled devices, wheeled.
Something along the lines of recreational devices, wheeled recreational, or
Yeah,
always things.
prohibited.
Right.
I think it's better. I really do. I think when you start saying specific things, naming specific devices that are not allowed, then they come up with a new one and they're like, it's not there, and it just causes problems, and it immediately outdates the sign.
Yeah. Wheeled recreational equipment or something like that.
Prohibited. Mhm.
Yeah.
I like that. Get really wordsmithy on that.
Okay.
Well, do you want to use the word prohibited, or do you want to keep it more welcoming and use the word refrain from using wheeled?
Well, that would be my choice to say that, but it sounds, I'm trying to be a kind of a happy medium. I think that, please refrain from is my choice, but as a to, kind of address Ryan's having a little bit stronger language, I think instead of using the word no, you could say prohibited. I think it's just a better.
I think refrain from is fine. I'm on board with that.
Like that. Okay. So James, maybe something like, please refrain from. Is refrain strong enough word if you really have a concern about using those scooters and stuff, or is prohibited really something that you need to have on those specific things?
I don't think we can say prohibited because it's not.
Okay.
Right? We don't have
So it's more of a guideline.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like the reality is like we never get to the point where we have to like pull out the rule book to get people to comply.
Right.
It's like we'll make contact. Usually it's somebody from the recreation department or my office, and we make contact and ask nicely, and they leave. That's usually how it works.
Okay. So we can go with please refrain from. Are you okay with that? Please refrain from. And then James, you want to.
Wheeled recreational equipment, I think is where we ended up.
Maybe like bringing wheeled recreation equipment on the court, or
Please refrain from using wheeled recreational equipment on courts.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I'm looking at a sign right now.
We need a verb in there, I think.
The closest I can find is no bicycles or wheeled toys permitted in the walking or jogging path is another city's sign.
So we could say, please refrain from, say the last part after the no.
No bicycles or wheeled toys permitted on the walking jogging path is the closest sign I could find.
I like James's wording better, kind of. I mean,
I actually do too. I think like the wheeled toys, it's like, is a skateboard a toy?
mm-hmm. Well, plus it gets away from what you were just saying. Like if somebody was out there with their walker wanting to play tennis, they're not violating the sign because a walker wouldn't be considered recreational equipment. I like that a lot. Thank you for embracing just the whole concept of changing the wording. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, so that'll work for number 1. Number 3 refers to removing court 1 and replacing with courts 7.
Yeah, and that's just a change
Just
to
a number
reflect.
change.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just a change to reflect reality on the sign. And maybe, maybe back then those were the teaching courts, but Vicky went out and said that the old numbers listed were not accurate for what's being used.
Great. And number 6 was correct the Ojai Recreation Department phone number and add the website.
Mhm.
Any concerns about that?
Oh yeah, sorry. I was going to say just modernizing it. It's apparently was very old.
Okay.
I'm wondering too if we want to add something about noise. Like I don't know how to word it, but basically like please don't make more noise than like tennis makes,
How about be courteous, something about being courteous to, Eric, can you Google what other people
What
use?
comes off the offhand is like keep noise levels at a respectable or
Oh, yeah,
noise
yeah.
levels at a respectable level or something.
That
Mhm,
sounds fine.
that's great. I like that a lot. Do we have room for that? Can they size the sign a little differently if we add another one?
Yeah,
Why don't you just,
I think we can.
sorry, why don't you just add it into the second one?
Yeah.
Where it's talking about language instead of adding it as a whole
That
new
sounds
rule.
good.
Oh, even better. Great.
The signs that I'm seeing
Yeah,
are
that's
saying
good.
things along the line of no excessive noise. That sounds a little better. Pardon the pun.
I like that first one. The respectable.
Oh, respectable level.
Yeah, I like that too. I do too. And it gets away from the word no. Okay. Do we want to bring this? I know it probably needs to get done. Do we want to see a final or do you need to get it done?
No, I actually like the idea. I was going to suggest that we bring it back, and that'll give everybody a little bit of time to think about it and digest, and then we can talk one more time and approve it next meeting.
Okay, I think that's a great idea. Okay, great. Okay, any other comments for on the sign?
Yeah, real quick. Is it going to be made out of the same material, or is it going to be a metal sign this time? Or
We haven't decided on material yet, so that is something we can talk about. That material was pretty durable, the one that was up there.
I
but-
can't tell
Can I
what it
suggest?
was.
Can I suggest that we keep in tune with the rest of the signage in the city and maybe keep it wooden?
Okay.
Is that what it is? It kind of looks like maybe like a press board type material or what?
Yeah, that's what I think it is.
Yeah, press board will absorb moisture and start to peel like this one is peeling.
Mhm.
Are you saying go metal? Is that what you're
No,
saying?
I'm saying keep it wood, but maybe
actual-
laminate wood
Okay.
or a lacquer cover or something of that nature to protect it a little longer.
I love the look of wood versus the metal signs are not as attractive.
All right, we'll come back with that too.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, informational items, item number 9, a recreation report.
I have information on programming that we're doing. And we're still renting out our park areas to 4 fitness programs that the buildings are closed. And so we're renting out the spaces to them to run their programming. And then we reached out to 3 additional ones. They want to consider a baby yoga class, which I thought was really cool, but they haven't gotten back to us yet. And then for classes that we're running, our regular adult strength class is on Mondays and Wednesdays, and he has 8 enrolled for the month of February. And our Aikido class has 3 enrolled for the month of February. And the dance classes are still holding off due to the weather. It's harder for them to run something and set up their whole wooden floors outside, so we don't have those right now. And we've opened a driver's education class online. And we don't have any enrollment for it yet, but it's something we used to have, and I think it's a really nice thing to bring back. They just do the whole thing online, and then they have to take the in-person driving course separately.
Are we offering that also, or?
We just opened that up this month. And I don't have any,
And we're offering the in-person too, or we have an instructor do
no,
that?
just the online course.
Just the online part, okay. And what's the age that what age is the 15?
15 and older.
15 and older, okay. I know that there was something changing about the permit. I thought I read that the age moved. It used to be 15 and a half. I thought that you could get your permit. And I want to say I read that it was moving to 16 for the permit. And then, Eric, can you Google that since you have your computer there? It had to do, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was a DMV change or a vehicle code change, but I did read about it somewhere.
I just tried to contact them. This was the information they gave me, and then I create the thing online for the registration. But I'll definitely reach out and question it.
Okay. It may have just been a proposal that I was reading and I don't remember. If I can come across the article, I'll forward it to you.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And by the way, thank you for just doing an amazing job. And being, everything is organized and at our fingertips, and it really makes things flow really nicely, and appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki.
Any commissioner reports or comments?
We have another one that was just a comment that we were going to bring up, that we now have our COVID testing twice a week here at the Recreation Department. We added Wednesdays on from 9 to 3:30 for the month of February.
How was the line for the last testing?
Monday had 6 people in line before they opened, and it took them about a half hour to get through the line. And after that, it was full lockup. And on Wednesday, it was lockup the entire day.
No backup.
Mm-mm.
Great. Yeah, that was I'm sure frustrating for people having to wait for so long. And so it's nice to see that it's just, they're able to accommodate.
And they even closed up, and people were driving up after the posted hours, and they handed them out take-home boxes for take-home.
Oh.
I thought that
Oh,
was,
I didn't know they were even doing that. That's great. And then they where do they drop them off?
I think it's a mail-in.
Oh, mail-in. Okay.
Yeah, they hand those out at the end of the day sometimes. So anybody that's watching and is interested might want to drop by. So
Okay. I had no idea. Thank you for that. Okay. Okay. Any other commissioner reports? Ryan or Eric? No?
No, nothing to report.
Okay. Okay, I have for future agenda items, we'll bring the sign back for final approval. And what else would we like to see on next month's agenda?
can I mention one thing? We had an email from a member of the public, and they asked if they could submit a plan. And I told them if they submit it, that I will forward it to the rec commission. And so obviously it'll be the commission's choice whether to agendize it, but it was I believe it's a youth, a member of the youth community. I guess that's a weird thing to say, but I think he's 17 or 18, and he had suggestions on some rules or changes in the skate park. And so I told him, submit it, and I'll submit it to the commission. So that might be something, that I'll distribute. And if anybody wants to agendize it, we can agendize it for a future meeting.
Okay, along with that, if it's something like proposed changes, can we also be, so we don't have to ask for it at the meeting, can we have what the current protocols are or practices?
Yeah, we'll do that.
And I also find it's helpful when we're talking about changes to know what the staff's experiences are and the rate of incidence or the impact that we're currently experiencing.
Okay.
I hate to see things made, brought forward that are really not issues
Okay.
for the majority of people.
Cool.
I just feel like it's helpful to know how many of whatever they're talking. I like to have the empirical data.
Yeah, we'll do that. Cool.
Okay. Any other future?
Also, technically last month we were supposed to have our annual election for chair and vice chair.
I thought that I had a cruel joke that we would elect Sage since she wasn't here. And I figured she's probably watching on her car coming home. So I thought I better not say that.
If only we'd put it on the agenda, we could have done that.
It did cross my mind. So I guess I was just going to not say anything, but I have my thoughts. So perhaps we could agendize it for next meeting to have those discussions.
Yeah, well, I think we should probably just have a nominations and vote, because it's
At our next meeting.
we're already a couple months behind.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll do that.
Thank you. Thanks for catching that and bringing it to our attention.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other future agenda items?
I saw in the agenda the mention of the general plan. Any word on how that's going and when we'll be involved?
Yeah, so we actually we met with the consultants yesterday and we scheduled the next step is a March 10th workshop. It's going to be like the first public workshop. And so we're making plans we're probably going to end up doing it by Zoom, but we're working on a couple of plans. And then just to give some background, it was the last 3 months or so where we had that survey open until early January, where you can take the survey, and then there was what they call a SWOT questionnaire too, which is the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and so those were open from like November to mid-January. Those are closed now, and so now we're scheduling that workshop for March 10th. And we had originally planned it this month, but when we were seeing that surge, we decided to hold off because we just didn't think people were going to pay attention to it at that point. So we're expecting to do that March 10th, a little bit delayed. So.
Okay. And our role would come in after some of that work?
Yeah, and I think the thought we had talked about the Recreation Commission was that, like, so this year, or this general plan update, at this point, we are doing the legally required elements, and even just those elements, because we're still out of date, cost $650,000. And so we don't have in there a couple of the elements that we know that Ojai will probably want and need, like the climate element and a recreation element. Those aren't part of the update currently, that $650,000 scope. So what we had talked about was the idea of working on that as a commission. And so I think my plan for that, and I'll put it on my list, is to take that to the city council to get the city council to approve that being like a task this year. So that's what we're working on, and I'll try to do that in the next maybe month to 6 weeks. So.
Great.
Sorry, my apologies. I didn't see it on the page 3 there. It was listed already as future agenda items. So will we have that, continue that over, carry that over to next month's agenda?
I'm thinking it's probably going to be more like April at this point.
Okay, so we don't even need to have an update on the agenda then?
No.
Okay. Okay.
James, I have a question for you, not related to future agenda items. Is there any update on the Parks Director position, either elevating Vicky or opening it up for applications for others?
So we have put all recruitments and all promotional opportunities and everything, unfortunately, on hold due to the budget. And so we were working, we were literally planning, interviews and things for, a couple of promotional opportunities and a couple of vacancies, but those are on hold until the budget gets better. And right now there's a couple of key businesses, like one everybody knows is the Inn, that they're such a large part of our budget, that aren't open yet, and they aren't going to be open for probably at least a couple more weeks. So we are going to have to wait and make sure things reopen and the budget recovers before we make any permanent decisions. So
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I think that unless anybody has anything else, we can adjourn our meeting. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.